Telecom continue to rule the world. Uzi goes godlike.
This is what peak League of Legends looks like.
Welcome everyone to beautiful Reykjavik, Iceland, host of MSI 2021. RNG have looked completely unstoppable so far, and today they are kicking off the action along with the Unicorns of Love, looking to prove that they can challenge the Titans at MSI. I'm Sjokz, joined by Vedius and Raz, as we welcome you to the studio once again. So, I'm really happy to have Raz here. I think it's an apt day to have a LCS representative. Raz, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Wait a second. Instantly. Look, I wish I was there in Reykjavik. It looks insane from there. But after that performance yesterday, it feels like a deja vu. I had to defend FPX's performance in groups when I was there, and it seems like I'm back at it again.
Yeah, not very good at picking the regions you support, apparently. Although this is, of course, yours. And after 3 days of competition, we're starting to see how our teams stack up. Nothing is set in stone, of course, but RNG, Mad Lions, and Damwon Kia, they're all undefeated in their groups.
They certainly are, and as a result of that, a couple teams sit at the bottom of the group, meaning that for teams like Wildcats, Pentanet, GG, and Cloud9, things may get difficult if they are not able to win a game today.
And of course, from tomorrow on, we get the days where you have the whole group played out in a singular day. Tomorrow it is Group A, but the front runner so far, Raz, it has to be Damwon. They were the pre-tournament favorites, and they have lived up to those expectations.
Yeah, and it's been incredible. I know coming into this event, we had questions on this man, Khan, taking the position of Nuguri that we've seen in the past, but he smashed at least in the back half of the game versus Cloud9. And in the second game, they were just as dominant. Damwon is here to play, and they made that very clear in their performance.
They certainly have. I think that Damwon have looked convincing. And as you rightly said, I've been really impressed with Khan alongside Canyon. How can we not talk about this superstar jungler along with this hyper-aggressive bot lane? Like, there are only nice things to say about Damwon, and I think that they are living up to the expectations that have been put upon them as the current world.
I agree. It's one of those cases where it's going so well that we're even forgetting that Beryl is smurfing every single game as well. So we'll see more of that once we get to, well, the next stages and then finally the best of fives. Next up, we have Mad Lions, also still undefeated. We were on the hype train after their victory versus PSG. Yesterday versus the Wildcats, though, Vedius. Oof, they almost lost that game.
Yeah, things definitely looked pretty close. I will say that they looked extremely dominant. On your screen right now, you're looking at Kazi silencing the doubters and breaking some ankles because he did have a fantastic performance, but I think Mad overstepped a couple times. They gave a couple windows, like you're seeing on your screen right now, for the Wildcats to come back into the game, and they did just that, showcasing that these emerging regions can compete if you give them the opportunity to do so.
Yeah, and here's my thing, like, the fact that they were able to dominate in lane, bot lane, versus what I felt to be the Wildcats' strength in Holy Phoenix and Farfetch, I thought was insane. Because you're right, the only questions that I had in my mind about Mad Lions coming into this event was the 2v2 bot lane. I thought Kaiser was a boss, absolutely, especially in their mid-game, late-game setup alongside his jungler. But it was more so around Karzi, as you mentioned, so the fact that they're able to get 2v2 kills bot side, I think is a really good showing for the team. And, great look at their development as they go on along in the tournament.
Yeah, definitely so, but also I think a couple of things to work on when it comes to the mid and the late game, but they're 2-0. And then we also had the shocker of yesterday. Detonation Focus Me took a historic win against the #1 seed of a major region. They beat C9, and it was the first time in the 7 years of the LJL they were able to beat a first seed of a major region.
Oh, I'm so happy to see DFM finally do it, right? They look so good, especially with the new additions to the roster. I think that for many, the introduction of Arya into the mid lane had some doubts because of how long-standing Seros is and how crucial he's been a part of this organization. But Arya stepped up, the team stepped up, and they had a huge performance yesterday.
And it's really been like a shocker for me on their level of team fighting, because event after event, we've seen this team, or at least the region, really kind of struggle in the play-in portion of it. You know, as you already said, the first major win that they were able to have, or at least the first win versus a major region, and the ability that they had in team fights to do that around Utapon and Arya, as you mentioned. Great stuff, and it really honestly shines a highlight in their performance going on. I really want to see these guys come out.
Yeah, that's a great point. And now we are thinking further, right? Vedi, they didn't just win this one game. Now we're thinking, okay, can they push through and make it to the next stage? Because I think that the LGL as a region are really waiting for that.
They certainly are. I think that with the additions to their roster, in particular with Arya coming into the mid lane, I think that they've been unlocked a little bit more in terms of what they can draft, how they can approach the game. And they also have that combination of new talent and veterans that I think we've been seeing across the globe develop and evolve into strong rosters. I'm excited to see what their future looks like, and I can't wait to see and talk about them more.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about them more now. You've actually been pretty calm considering this is your favorite team, your favorite region. You've been supporting them even when it hasn't gone so well. So Vedius, turn us all into that Nation Focus Me fans.
Yeah, because the thing about the LGL is that I've always been a believer, but unfortunately they've never really been able to deliver on the hype. But they were able to get a monumental win against Cloud9 yesterday, because the LGL have taken games off of major regions before, although far and few between. The opportunities have been there, but never have they fought a first seed and have been able to come out on top. So I want to talk a little bit about what went so well for them and why things struggled for Cloud9, starting off with the draft. So let's have a look at Cloud9's composition, because you'll see that it's actually very difficult to execute. They have this strong side top, and they also have priority in the bot. So there is options for them to actually play through the bot lane, but when you draft this Jace, it's all about the top side of the map and making sure the Fudge is set up for success. Meanwhile, DFM have got a pretty standard front-to-back team fight where they have really good engage, they have good follow-up dive, and they have pretty consistent damage coming out from the Zoe. So all they really need to do is chill out and wait for the fights. Now, our first clip looks at Blabber's early pathing. C9 can get priority in top and bot, but not mid early. So C9 have options where they want to play. C9 do have info on where Seal starts. C9 still choose to start on the bot side of the map though. The expectation is to get top, prio, and then play for the top scuttle crab. The problem with this is Udyr fast clears, so he's likely always going to be 4 for this scuttle fights. Nid won't be. And while Blabber does try to get some information and try to stop it, unfortunately he's unable to do so. While this is happening, the bot lane is conceding prio, and so he realizes he's going to get double scuttled, so he feels like he has to force this. But the thing is, even though top lane has priority and can collapse, mid does not. Therefore, even though the Jace can collapse first, it does not matter. The problem with this whole thing is C9 wanted to play through top, and they end up just not being able to do that. Jace spends the rest of the early game just under his tower, and even losing it. By 10 minutes and 30 seconds, Fudge ends up dying top, and they take the top tower with the Herald. But why is this important? Well, the Drake fights. C9's comp doesn't have a great frontline. It's got good poke, some powerful CC, but with the Jace plus Nidalee combo, you need this duo to be ahead to leverage your strong poke and zoning tools. You can see a little bit of that, but then you can also see how far behind they are when this poke doesn't do anything, and Detonation Focus Me can start a fight whenever they want. Now, DFM actually misstep after this little fight, allowing for C9 to get some kills and even secure the Drake. Unfortunately for them, the same thing is not going to happen at the next Drake fight. C9 once again have really good setup on the Dragon. They deny vision and do exactly what their comp needs to do, have the enemy walk into them. You'll see they take a good chunk of damage off of Arya's HP bar, and in an ideal world, this is exactly what they want to do. So their setup is good. The problem is at this point in the game, their comp and the gold deficit is a little bit too much. So let's have a look now at how DFM actually execute. Oh look, Evie's here. Let's just walk into the fog of war. Let's face check everything, because we don't actually need to be afraid of C9. They immediately collapse, and keep your eyes on Utapon here. This is what Raz was talking about earlier. His positioning and execution of this fight was flawless. He drags Blabber over the wall. He's hitting perks, and notice how awkward it is for C9. Vulcan finally tries to get an engage, but now Evie has the ultimate available. He's able to land that 3-man CC, and then the rest of the team can come to follow up and clean up the fight to allow them to get this big win. DFM drafted a comfortable comp that they executed well after punishing the mistakes of Cloud9. On the other side, Cloud9 are not off to the best start here at MSI. For more, let's hear what Fudge thinks about the opening days.
I think we're obviously very confused as to why we're losing, and it also feels like we should be the ones beating, especially DFM or INF in our games, but obviously we're losing, and we need to go back and review and try to fix all our issues. And I think It might be champions, it might be the way we're playing, and I'm not too sure of it yet, but I think that I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to come back and at least get second in our group. I think that if we play the same, we'll lose again. In our upcoming games, we might just open the champions that we've been banning and just hope that either they take it and we play into it, or we just play it, because I do think that we're very good at all the champions that are currently like strong. Even though we lost to DFM and INF beat DFM, I still think that we're much better than INF. I think that we'll still be able to beat them pretty easily.
I mean, I think that's a confidence you got to have, Raz, because if you look at the pre-tournament expectations, C9 shouldn't be afraid of, Infinity. They shouldn't be afraid necessarily of Detonation Focus Me, because we know that they can beat them. So how worried are we realistically at this point in time about Cloud9's future at MSI?
It's conflicting. Conflicting because, remember, there are not a lot of games to play. If you make one more mistake like you did in the previous game, then it's that much harder to be able to snatch that second place. Do I think that they're going to lose out? No, not at all. I think they're going to get second. The only concern now is the pre-tournament expectation that I had in the team that picked up perks, that had Blabber as the second MVP that he's had so far, and then losing based off just that alone. So I'm concerned. Just from like how far I expect this team to go, but nah, they should be able to get out of this group.
Maybe we can offer you some support as people who've seen Sven and Perks specifically
I'm in need of a
fall
support
behind.
Group, definitely.
Like fall behind in group stages, fall behind in best of fives, Vedius. We've seen firsthand that this usually doesn't phase, especially Perks and Sven, and for what I can hear, also not Fudge. He still has that confidence. So it all points to things looking up.
Yeah, it certainly does. I think that anyone that has followed Perks in his career will remember the last MSI, where they went 5-5 in groups. They lost to Fongbu Buffalo. He's also been in a group stage. Yeah, he's also been in a group stage where he was almost knocked out by the Flash Wolves at Worlds. So I feel like that Perks is a player that has been in this situation multiple times. He oozes confidence, and I'm sure that the team will very quickly figure out what their problems are and bounce back.
But as Raz says, there aren't that many games, and international events like MSI, they are a proving ground for rookie and legend alike. And while we've seen the rise of some superstars, we've also witnessed some less than stellar performances. So it is time to ask you who your studs and duds are so far at MSI. Raz, will you kick us off with your first stud, or your only stud, actually?
Absolutely. My stud here is Wei from RNG, because coming into this event, I mean, he's leading in MVPs in the regular season in the LPL spring for a reason. The early game for this team starts with Ming and ends with Wei. This jungle mid, the jungle support 2v2 that they have, the synergy is on point. He's been insane in this tournament so far. Even with an uncompetitive group, he just rolls over them. So I was looking at Wei in particular into this event. I think he is the second best jungler right next to Canyon. So there's a lot of hype from my end on what he can do in this tournament.
I totally agree, and especially when we get to the further stages of MSI, see how he and RNG can develop. But where there is a stud, there is a dud. Raz, tell us.
If it wasn't already obvious with the statements that I've made prior, it has to be Blabber in two fronts. The first front end is the fact that he's a carry jungler, someone that you want to play around ultimately, him and Perks. But game one that we saw versus Dom1, where the composition was good, and he wasn't really set up to succeed with this particular matchup. And then in game two, he makes a blunder like this that actually puts his team absolutely far behind. And so, I come into this event thinking that Blabber, starting in his first major tournament international, this is where he needs to come and improve, his strength to the world. And this is not the start you want to see.
Well, Raz, of course, you have watched Blabber for a while now. He also had a stellar split. He was the MVP. So what can you tell us about what we should usually expect from Blabber and what we hopefully will see in the next couple of games?
What I'm expecting is, exactly what we said. 2v2 through mid. Him and Perks have formed really a dominant, combination. And really, no one in North America has really been able to puncture that. So what I'm expecting, more carry performances. I don't think Rumble's going to be in play, but certainly Kindred is something that's come up in the past and has been a conversation. So any carry jungler that he can have, then I think that he and the team really does thrive when they play for the jungle and play through Blabber.
So, a lot of junglers so far in the studs and duds. Vedius, who is your stud?
Well, I'm going to keep the trend going, and I'm going to have to talk about Down One's Canyon. The man just oozes talent. I feel like we've been seeing it last year. We're going to continue to see it at this tournament because the man has done nothing but dominate. His pathing is just so next level. We got Kadril breaking down some of it yesterday, and I think that in every single game, we're just seeing why he is such a great player. Down one set him up for success, and I think that he rewards them by absolutely dominating the early game and getting very impressive stats like you're seeing on your screen right now.
Yes, and again, a jungler. That's 3 already in the studs and the duds. Is that a sign of the importance of jungler in the early game skirmishes, the champion pool, or the strength of the junglers, or all of the above?
I think junglers have just been OP for a very long time. I think that ever since the change to the jungle spawn timers, there being so much money and experience to be gained, junglers have so much more agency. And now we're actually seeing, I think, even more ganking junglers. Things like Morgana, Rumble. I mean, Udyr was already very prevalent. When you give these champions into the hands of a player like Canyon and a player like Wei, they're just going to run away and dominate the game. Now, you could sit there and say perhaps the level of competition isn't someone that can rival them just yet, but I still think that what we see from Canyon in particular is just very smart pathing, intelligent play consistently, and just an overall dominant performance.
You can only beat who's in front of you right now, right? So we have to give credit where credit is due, but you also owe me a dud.
I do, and I hope that my Twitter doesn't get attacked once again, but I am going to talk about Pain Gaming's BRTT. I think that coming into this tournament, expectations were that he would be one of the big carries for Pain.
Yeah.
And so far, he hasn't been able to deliver. He has been dying a lot in the 2 versus 2. His impact in the team fights have not been significant, and I feel like that we expected a lot more from this player, and we need to see more, because Pain currently sitting at 1-1. I believe that if they want to make it out of this group, he is going to have to step up like the rest of his team have to be able to challenge and actually make a case to get out.
Raz.
Yeah, I mean, look, I definitely rest in peace to your mentions on this one. I do agree, and I think that from what we've seen from Pain so far, domestically in the region, they thrive off team fights, and you have to play through bot lane, and yeah, set him up to succeed, absolutely. I think the concern that I've always had is more so in the setup that they have around objectives. Whenever the setup comes through, you know, they end up getting caught or picked off before it even happens. So I definitely want to see that progress there from the team.
Yeah, and just to reset kind of the expectations, if you are not so familiar with the CBLOL and with this representative, this really is a super team. 4 out of 5 of the members already have CBLOL titles. They're only the jungler who is relatively new to the stage. So there is an expectation amongst the Brazilian fans that this is going to be a return to the golden age. So that is why we have BRTT in the duds for Vedius, may I add.
Specifically at Vedius on Twitter, yeah.
So looking ahead at our schedule, we're going to see all those studs and duds facing off today on the Rift. Wei and RNG take on the Unicorns of Love, and then the Unicorns of Love will have back-to-back games. Later on, we'll see Cloud9 claw for a victory against Infinity. Raz, what game do you have your eye on? Do I even need to ask?
I would love to see that game, absolutely. Just in terms of how little games you have, you need to not only take this win, but restore confidence in North America and actually have a very Cloud9-esque win.
Yeah.
It needs to be dominant. And so I want to see strong play overall from the team.
I love that you said that, like a Cloud9-esque win, a win that can really instill confidence in themselves and in the fans. Well, no matter what region our teams represent, they're all together in Iceland. And for our Icelandic fun fact of the day, we're going to chill out with the Icelandic Jule lads. Please tweet me with like help how to pronounce everything I'm going to say. But the Icelandic lore, it states that the children of Iceland are visited by 13 Jule lads in the 13 nights leading up to Christmas. And each night, the children place their shoes on the windowsills, and those who are well behaved are rewarded with candy. For those who don't pass the test, their shoes are filled with rotting potatoes with Jule lads. So, I mean, studs and duds, Raz, who would get rotting potatoes?
Probably send it to Vedius also back on Twitter, you know. Send that round to me and put it over there.
Yeah, I'm happy that we get to learn about all these fun facts. Not the biggest of countries, but certainly very beautiful and very interesting. And while not the Jule lads, the lads of RNG, they have quite a bit to celebrate after a successful first few matches here at MSI. And Dash, he spoke with their jungler Wei about their journey so far.
What's up, everyone? Dash here on the ground at MSI, joined by Wei, following a very dominant performance over Unicorns of Love. Wei, first question to you. 3-0 in the tournament so far, and as I mentioned, each game has looked about more dominant than the last. How has this measured up to the expectation of both you and the team so far coming into the event?
首先，恭喜你们已经3连胜了嘛！目前为止的比赛当中，都是表现出了非常强的一个统治力，每一场都感觉比前一场打得要更好。所以目前为止，这个结果是符合你自己或者是队伍的整个预期的吗？
就3连胜就达到了自己的预期吧。对。
I think for now, are having a 3-game winning streak, so that's definitely reached our expectation.
All right, well, when we talk a little bit about what we've been seeing so far in the tournament, I want to talk about the meta and the champions being played. Teams across the event have been playing a wide variety of champions. I'm curious why you think that is and what it is about the game currently that supports a wide meta like that.
感觉目前为止比赛当中有很多不同的一个英雄的一个上场嘛，你觉得这是一个版本的就是版本所导致的一个原因吗？
我觉得这个就是11.9有很多英雄削弱了，然后也有一些英雄 AP 打野啊，很多 AP 打野都可以玩了，就感觉 AP 打野就是打野盒的嘛，就物理打野大部分还是打团队的。对。
So because I think a lot of champions in this current meta are nerfed, so it brings more possibility for the AP junglers. So it means that the team can play more jungle centric. That's probably the most important. That why we're seeing a lot of variety of different champions.
Well, you've already played 3 unique champions. I'm very excited to see what else you have in store. Now, at the moment, if you guys continue this form, you will be moving on to the next stage of the tournament, which means more opponents. I'm curious if there are any individual or specific junglers in the tournament that you are excited to match up against and why.
因为按照这样一个气势下去的话，你们是非常的稳，能够进到下一个阶段了嘛，所以。也会有面对上更多的对手，更多的队伍。有没有哪一个打野选手是你特别想要去交锋的呢？
就更想遇见 DK 的打野堪勇吧，然后就特别厉害。
I really want to face off against Canyon from Damwon Kia. He seems pretty strong.
That will be probably the jungle matchup of the tournament right there. Last question for you is tomorrow. You're the first game of the day once again, and you'll be facing off in a rematch against Unicorns of Love. I want to understand a little bit about what the preparation looks like between today and tomorrow, particularly when you have 24 hours to look back on the game today.
明天的话，你们会跟Unicorns of Love 就独角兽会有一个再相遇的比赛，是第一场比赛嘛？想知道一下，因为你们会有24小时去准备这场比赛，会不会有一些特别的准备？
就回去更加认真的训练跟研究他们吧。
I think we will scrim pretty hard and just put a lot of efforts to do research on them.
All right, fantastic. Wei, a beautiful start for RNG so far. I want to thank you so much for taking the time and wish you the best of luck in the rest of your games.
祝你好运，然后现在整个势头都非常好，希望之后的比赛也好运。
OK， 谢谢大家。
Thank you so much.
Well, there you go. Fantastic interview. And man, what I would give to know what's happening in those scrims, because we're getting like hints here and there from especially a lot of Mad Lions players, I have to say. I don't know if they're being a bit too self-confident, but he's saying it's going well. They're going to prep hard for this one. But to be honest, it's a bit of a free group for them, Vedi.
It certainly feels like that. Yeah, unfortunately, with the VCS not being able to attend, the expectations were that Unicorns kind of looked like the next favorites. And I think that with Pentanet being in a position where, especially with a lot of veteran players, this is their first opportunity to make it to the international stage. Unicorns have kind of had that experience with their strong top side, which they've been, well, for a while now, leveraging to great success.
And Raz, of course, you are currently casting and working for the LCS, but you are also still a big fan of the LPL, where you've worked for many, many years. For RNG, it's, of course, the big story of return to glory, return to the domestic title, and hopefully return to international success. You know, it is a bit tricky because they've done so well in this group stage, but then you're going to think, is that a false sense of security? How much trust do you have that they will be able to elevate their play as they find opponents that are of higher caliber as they continue?
I have a lot of trust, and the reason for that is because of that legacy that you're talking about. With Xiaohu, when he made that role swap at the very beginning of the split, there were a lot of questions because the manner in which it happened was very haphazard, and so we were like, is this team set up to succeed? Hell yes, they were. Like, they came in incredibly strong, and you know, coming into this tournament, Ming, a big leader for this team, and I feel like the strongest or one of the strongest supports in the world. is an amazing leader for the team. And the biggest questions that we have are usually the younger players that are coming in, because we have a lot of faith in the experienced lot. But for Wei to come in, or Cryan to come in and to perform well so far, sure, it's against lower competition, but we've seen people fall with that hurdle in the past. So I'm confident. We just need to see tough competition. We did give a lot of credit to Unicorns of Love coming in, that maybe that they would challenge them in a team fight. I want to see that, because last time it was a stomp.
Yeah, that is true. Let's talk a little bit more about Wei, who has been so impressive. You specifically wanted to look at how he shut down Pabu the last time that they met Pentanet.
Yes, it was not even just him too. It was a team effort, where this was a bad decision from Pentanet to challenge Udyr, Silas, and Lee Sin in a 3v3, especially when they were the ones there first. And when we see challenges like these, or an advantage given to the jungler, we want to see him press on the gas pedal, and they did that. Constantly challenging for blue buffs, and having not just the mid laner and Cryan come over, Xiaohu to also help in being able to secure that as well. And of course, Raptors challenged consistently. It was an objective to get him out of the game. Pabu was not allowed to farm. I have not seen a Flamer Horizon in the jungle in my memory. I know it's happened once in the past, but it was consistent. It was a concerted effort, and it's nice to see the confidence there from Wei. And hey, you know what? Push him out of the jungle, and then go straight down mid when you know you can actually get a kill on a manaless mid in Chad. So it's just, I think, really a great showing from a team that now they are hungering for competition.
Yeah, I was feeling that last hit there. That is my kill.
Yeah, I think that Wei is continuing to demonstrate really good awareness and pathing. And I think that one of the biggest things for me is that the way in which Damwon won Worlds last year it wasn't about jungler playing for lanes, it was about laners playing for jungle. And this is another great example of how laners can help support their junglers and how you can get advantages in the jungle. And not only do you set your jungler up for success, but you deny so much from one of the big playmakers on the enemy team. And against Pentanet, it was super important. And I think that when you go up against the Unicorns of Love, it's a very similar conversation, because whenever we look at this roster, we also talk about their top side. We talk about players like Ananasik, and I think that when you're RNG, you're constantly going to look to try and shut down that enemy jungle.
So let's talk a bit about the Unicorns of Love then. I want to be careful in the words I choose here, because obviously going up against RNG is super difficult. But because of the pedigree of the LCL specifically, and the fact that this roster was for the majority similar, got to the groups of the world stage, the group stage of Worlds last year around, I have actually high hopes for them, and I want them to do well. And up until now, I've not seen them be even competitive in a game versus RNG. I want to see that today, Vedius. Do you think it's possible, and where do they have to focus?
I think that initially we would start by talking about the 2v2 mid-jungle, and be talking about how Ananasik and Nomans in the past are a large part of where they were able to find success. Unfortunately, I think that given the current meta and the champion pool that Nomans has, he doesn't have the same agency or playmaking power that he once did, which means that we now look and turn our attention to Boss up towards the top lane. Domestically, he was a bit of a powerhouse. He was one of the key carries, and he's been a big part of this trio that has helped dominate the LCL for so many years. And I think that going up against a player like Xiaohu, he's someone that you have to try and enable and try and give the winning matchup towards, and then just play the weak side bot. Make sure that they have a staple, safe bot side of the map to then try and shut down Xiaohu, set your team up for success, because you can't afford to be giving Lucian top lane over to Xiaohu. That's just like his bread and butter.
Yeah, and here's the thing too, because like, I agree with you absolutely. For me, with Unicorns of Love, I just want to see them get into a team fight setting where when they're not already in an astronomical deficit from the laning phase, as you said. So like giving draft resources to Boss, so he's not put in a Gnar matchup, whatever it could be, of course. If it's the Lucian, if it's the Jace, set him up to succeed and play towards the top side pretty heavily. Make your bot side play safe, because that's just, I think, going to be the strategy that RNG go for. I don't think they're going to be piling towards the bottom side of the map. So then when you get to the team fights, you can play to what you are known for. And so I think Unicorns of Love didn't get the opportunity to show their strength last time.
That missed ban right there has Lucian's face written on it. That's what needs to change coming into this matchup, because again, I think that if you deny the strong top jungle duo rather from RNG, it's already one step closer to getting closer to actually having that close game.
And as is the nature, when you talk about options, you immediately see then, you know, it's very difficult, because RNG, as said, they played a lot to topside to Xiaohu in the regular season. They shifted that in the finals versus FPX, were more proactive and put more resources in the bottom lane. But now we see that Cryan yesterday had a huge game on Sylas as well, and Wei is out jungling everybody. So, I mean, I don't want to make you less excited for this matchup. If anything, I want to build up the possibility for Unicorns of Love to make the upset. Raz, any last words for the Unicorns of Love to hopefully show us something in this match?
What I saw from them in their finals, domestically, was drafting creativity. I know they lost that from losing Gadget, that's fair, but at least in the mid lane, I think they're really creative in what they can pick. If they see a great matchup, I know that Cryan loves his Ryze, right? Then you can put down the Cassiopeia that you stomped in that moment. So I think that giving yourself a strong 2v2 is good, and then just being aware. Because you're right, like previously being a coach, seeing the missed draft in the second phase tilts me, because that's when you need to be clear, and that's when you need to be, have strong direction of what your composition wants to look like. So I don't expect that to happen again. I expect them to be a lot more confident in what their game plan is, and I expect them to be giving a lot more resources towards boss and nomads.
Yes, I hope for a good game, and when the expectations are at the lowest and they're the biggest underdogs, usually the Unicorns of Love are able to perform. The group stage has now reached the final day of the first round robin, and some teams are under a lot of pressure to turn things around. Let's see what happens.
MSI always feels to me like the tournament where surprises are more likely to happen, where the result is not as set in stone.
DFM, a team that has never made it past their initial station at any tournament ever.
今日こそは絶対勝つぞって気持ちでやって、実際勝てたんで、もう本当に今後の自信にすごいつながりますね。
DFM looking to make Cloud9 have a 0-2 start to MSI 2021 with a win on the books here for the Japanese team.
I was not expecting that, but I think they just had a bad day.
I think we're obviously very confused as to why we're losing, and it also feels like we should be the ones beating, especially DFM or INF in our games, but I'm pretty confident that we'll be able to come back and at least get second in our group.
We know that they are a really good team. They are probably better than every team on Latam, but I know we can beat Cloud9 and we are going to be ready.
Gillette Infinity have done it. They will take down Detonation Focus Me in their first game of MSI 2021.
前回の INF 戦、僕たちが一気に投げて試合が一気に終わってしまったんですけれども、次はもう投げないので、僕たちがね INF 戦にリベンジして勝ちたいと思います。
There are a lot of strong teams here at this tournament. There have been some very one-sided games that we have seen that I think are making people underestimate some of these minor region teams.
RNG dominate, decimate, deconstruct, and obliterate Pentanet.
Well, I think morale is always good in our team. Like, we're all really good mates. Probably even when we're losing, you can probably see on the camera we're having a laugh. I definitely think we have an opportunity to win games versus UOL.
RNG destroy Unicorns of Love and make again a statement in a heavily favored match.
We learned a lot, and every loss for us is experience. That's what matters.
我们肯定会以小组第一的身份出现嘛，然后现在我们什么队伍都不怕。
RNG, we might have lost you, but next time we're gonna crush you.